Hi guys, this is PP Reporter and welcome to my channel. Silph has finally announced the cup for August. It is going to be a throwback to 4 previous theme cups which Silph has hosted. So you have your 4 cups as Sorceress, Ferocious, Timeless and Sinister. Now I particularly like the Timeless and Sinister. However, given the new meta which has been introduced and the movesets updates which have happened, I am really liking how the Sinister Cup is really turning out. Hence, today's guide is going to be on the updated version of the Sinister Cup. So if we actually look into what the rules were for the previous version, you would have to get either a Ghost, Psychic, Steel or Fighting type Mon for the meta. Dark was completely banned, Mythicals were banned, Skarmory and Hypno, some OP Great League Mons were also banned. But given the current update, what Silph has gone ahead and done has further included bans of Galarian, Shadow Mons, Legendary and Riftloom. And when they have done this, they have actually further gone ahead and added on 5 dark type mons. So you have Sharpedo, Shiftry, Crawdung, Honchcrow and Murkrow which have been included into the meta. Now when we look into the typing matchups, you have Ghost which double resists fighting and normal and will resist additionally bug. However, it will be weak to your other Ghost and Dark type movesets. Psychic Mons will resist other Psychic Mons and fighting types but will be weak to your Ghost and Dark again. Steel types has a lot of resistance. It resists your Steel and other Psychic Mons but it will be weak to your fighting, fire and ground type movesets, all of which would be somewhat meta relevant here. Fighting type is going to resist only the Dark type movesets, but it will be weak to your Psychic, Flying and Fairy. Again, these will be all meta relevant movesets as well. Finally, the inclusion of your 5 Dark Mons means that these Mons would double resist your Psychic Mons. So your Dark type will double resist the Psychic type attacks. It will single resist your other Ghost type, Dark type and normal type attacks. However, it will be weak to fighting and fairy, particularly bug type here, because it has so many other resistances, doesn't seem to have too much of a play in the meta. So finally getting into the entire team building aspect, what I noticed across is what you need at the core of it is something which is anti-steal. Hence you need your fighters. So here you have Primeape leading the bunch with its Night Slash Dark type moveset, which does give it such good covering against the meta of the Psychic and Ghost typing. At the same time, its fighting type being super effective against the Steel type. And also, given the fact that Night Slash has a 12.5% chance of boosting your attack +2, which means that it can turn this Primeape into a monster if you get that particular boost. Machamp with its Rock Slide gives you good coverage against flying type mons. Toxicroak with its Mud Bomb will be super effective against other Steel. Now some of you would be wondering why I have included Hitmonchan here in place of Hitmontop. Now Hitmontop is also a good mon. However, I feel Hitmonchan is overall more consistent in its win against other Steel types, which is why I have kept it here. Not to mention it has more spammy moveset and its elemental punches gives it a lot more coverage. So I find it a lot more playable mon, at the same time doing everything which Hitmontop also does. Finally, you have Medicham, your fighting Psychic, and it is still extremely meta relevant. It is able to kill across the other fighters, it is able to take care of Steel types and is a very good mon overall. So I would keep an eye out across for Medicham, and it depends completely on you how you want to play it, whether you would want Dynamic Punch and Ice Punch, would you want Power Up Punch and Psychic to get that coverage on other fighters, is something which is there up to you. So further, you will need something to counter all these fighting types. For this, you will have some of your core Ghost Mons such as Alolan Marowak, given that it has gotten a buff in its Hex move, you'll have to probably forget Fire Spin and get Hex. It makes the Mon a lot more spammy, and given the fact that Ghost is more effective in this meta, it's the preferred moveset. For Gardevoir, one shield and it can charm down anything. It just totally does something like a 20 plus damage against a Primeape. It is such a meta killer against these fighters, and it actually has a lot of play otherwise as well. Further, Gengar, why I have put Gengar here in place of Haunter is that again I feel Gengar is more consistent than Haunter, and additionally it has Focus Blast in its pool set of moves. So it can suddenly KO or turn around a match, probably if it is facing off against a steel typing. Not to mention its Shadow Punch, Shadow Ball moveset given after CD makes it on par with Haunter. And also the fact that it has slightly bit more defense than Haunter means it takes lesser damage from attacks and thus is slightly more bulkier. I find a lot more comfort in using a Gengar probably over a Haunter. Further, in order to counter these Ghost and Psychic type Mons, you have your core Steel type Mons. Empoleon has really risen the rank ever since it got its Drill Peck. The flying type move gives it good coverage. It has the same energy requirement as a Hydro Cannon. However, its Waterfall does a chunk load of damage against most of these meta Mons. Bastiodon and Probopass are still going to be extremely meta relevant Steel type and Ghost type and Psychic type killers. However, do keep an eye out for direct counters. For example, if you have a ground type Psychic Mon, it will probably be able to take care of Bastiodon or Probopass, or if you have a grass type Mon, it would be effective against Empoleon. So be wary of the direct counters obviously. However, generally these Mons are good against the meta and is able to take care of other Ghost and Psychic type Mons, especially your core meta Mons. So these are the core Mons which I would say are must-haves. It's an interplay between Steel, Fighting and Ghost and Psychic. So choose your Mons carefully here, because in your other coverage picks which actually balances out your team, you would have across your dark typings. Now these Mons are going to be super meta. Yes, all of them are going to be super weak to your fighting, and probably that's why Niantic has allowed these 5 specific Mons to be in the meta. However, if we for example look at Honchkrow, Honchkrow has its flying moveset which gives it a potential of one-shotting these fighting type Mons, and with its dark move it covers your Ghost and Psychic. So it is quite similar to slot 3 with similar weaknesses. However, it does manage to give a coverage across to other ground type Mons as well. So a good Mon to have in terms of overall coverage. Now Murkrow is, I haven't included that because I feel Honchkrow is a direct side grain across to it. Not to mention, again, if we go on to Shiftry, given that Empoleon has risen in ranks, Shiftry has more of a play across here. Otherwise itself, it is also an extremely spammy Mon and can really bait out the shield. So good Mon to have. Crodonk performs quite similarly to Shiftry as well, with its Crab Hammer being an extremely powerful move. It can counter a lot of other ground and rock type Mons as well. So a good Mon to have overall in terms of balancing out your team and how you want to play it out. They are also in fact extremely weak to Gardevoir's charm, and thus Gardevoir over here plays an extremely important role of not only taking care of the fighters but also the dark type Mon. So I would really advise you guys to keep an eye out for Gardevoir in this meta. Further, I want to mention a couple of steel typings which are interesting in the meta. Steelix with its Dragon Tail, Crunch and Earthquake has a very good overall coverage. Yes, it still does lose to fighting. However, it is able to probably play across a lot of match, maybe a good switch in, and will be able to really balance out your matches. Ferrothorn, again grass typing, is able to get good coverage against some of those water type Mons and is a good overall Mon, will lose to fighting still. Finally, Mawile is something I find very interesting in the meta. Mobile should be running ideally Bite. It does give it a lot more coverage. Now, given the fact that in its moveset pool it has your power up punch, it has dazzling gleam, so a fairy type and fighting type charge moves and a dark type fast move means it has a lot of coverage in the meta and can really shake up your opponent. So it really matters how you plan on fixing it in your team, but it is an interesting and spicy pick across. Now, finally, for your interesting, really spicy picks for Sinister, which I would probably look at Golruk. Given its ghost and ground typing, it plays a very unique role. The ground typing gives it a threat against your other steel types, and its ghost typing tends to resist fighting types, so it does have a play against both sides. It is not a consistent mon, however, it is an interesting mon to have across in your team. Probably your opponent may not even have planned across for it and may not know how to react to it. So interesting mon. They might just bring in a fighting type to beat it, because at first glance it looks so much like a steel type mon. Another mon, Alolan Raichu. Given its psychic typing, it's an interesting mon to have with its spammy moveset. In case you do run into an Empoleon versus an Alolan Raichu, a small tip: just go straight fast move. Do not throw any charge moves, because if you throw a charge move, your opponent will be able to sneak in one fast move and probably will be able to go for a simultaneous KO. However, if you go straight farm down, you should have enough energy to throw on your next opponent and get that switch advantage. As far as Dusclops is concerned, it is an expensive mon to have, but it is bulky, and with its elemental punches, it is an interesting mon to have across in your team, and it does have a lot of wins in the meta as well. So this here is my overall meta and team building guide for the updated version of Sinister Cup for August 2020. Do leave a like and comment if you liked today's video. Do subscribe, it means a lot across for the channel. And thank you guys for watching till the end. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.